Welcome to Playful Beginnings, a podcast about the magic of play therapy for therapists, students, and anyone interested. In our podcast, we'll explore the deeper understanding of play therapy and the skills we use when working with children.
We hope to help you understand the why behind what we do and how it helps kids heal and grow. I'm Dr. Christy Opiola, a working play therapist and university professor in North Carolina.
I'm Dr. Maggie Parker, a play therapist and professor in DC. Again, please like and subscribe to the podcast. We're on YouTube and all of the major podcast platforms. Look at our Instagram accounts, playtherapyspace.com. You can sign up for newsletters that we're going to get better about doing.
One of our New Year's goals.
A New Year's goal for the business. And just, we want to keep supporting you. And we started talking last week, kind of what Dr. Mary Bennett talked to us about a little bit with executive functioning. And again, a listener, Tisha Moon, out of Family and Child Therapy, reached out and wanted us to talk about how play therapy aligns with different diagnoses and different aspects that children are coming in with. So one of the things I think, so if we start at early childhood, right? So thinking about 3 to 5, they are now independent. They have opinions, usually pretty strong ones. Mm-hmm. They recognize that they can state their opinions and that they have tools to get what they want. And usually those tools can be difficult for parents. Sometimes it's the going stiff, the going boneless, the no's, the cries, right? But that's how they're kind of figuring out how to get what they want. So recognizing that is all normal. There is a huge growth at this time with self-regulation and attention, and that being able to bring self under control. And it's not going to be 100%. This is not something that I told you not to throw your food and you're still throwing your food. Limits are going to have to be set repeatedly. So just recognizing that as parents and caregivers, this is a normal part of development. It often takes multiple times to be able to get your child under control and trying to remain calm in those moments. They're starting to be able to pause before they act, but they're still very impulsive. I don't know why this just came to mind. We had a family reunion. My brother was about 3 and we were having a water gun fight. He looks over and he goes, "There's the cat. Where's my gun?" I was like, that inhibitory, he was going to go and he was going to get that cat. And it's just kind of one of those things that is what they want to do. They see something and they want to do it. They got an idea and it's hard for them, if they really want to do something, to keep themselves from doing it. They're very impulsive.
So what that might look like in the playroom is that, they pull out the dart gun and they point it at you. And although you may be saying all the right words around limit setting and other things, the impulsivity is so high that they really act before they can process the information you give. Or as you're setting the limit, the gun goes off.
The little girl who cut her hair with me.
Yeah.
That impulse was just really high, really, really high.
Yeah.
And sometimes that also means that as caregivers and teachers and play therapists, that we may have to adjust the way in which we're setting limits. That if it's dangerous, that we can, try and mitigate some of the dangerous activities, knowing that their impulsivity is there. And that's just part of it.
But also not wanting to lose that idea that we trust the child.
Right.
Either. I don't want that to sound like we gave you permission to take control of the room.
No.
Still really leaning into that I trust and have belief in this child's ability to get themselves under control. What I need to be able to do is respond in a way that understands development. So when they are impulsive or they, the want, need, and desire is higher than this idea that I can process the information you get me, that I'm staying regulated and I'm staying and I'm with a lot of empathy back to them. You really wanted to see what that was like. People are not for shooting or hair is not for cutting.
Yeah. And I think, it's with that example of the hair cutting, it's not me being like, "Stop, what are you doing?" and knocking scissors out of their hand. It's, okay, so this is a highly impulsive child. They're going to have a hard time in that time frame of setting that limit. to bring themselves under control. So I can kind of gently reach out to the scissors and say, oh, you really want to do that. And just kind of move the scissors very gently, not pushing them out of the way. Just being, you really like to cut your hair, see what that's like. And hair is not for cutting. It's still maintaining those essential CCPT attitudes and recognizing the desires and the wants and prizing that, while also recognizing that this is going to be hard in that moment.
But this skill is loosely developed, right? And so
Right.
it needs a lot of refinement and practice.
Lots of
Practice
practice.
means we're going to get it wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes we're going to get it right.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think that when this is a joke in our house, that Lee really likes to talk through things with our kids. And I'm like, cut it off, because they don't have the capacity at that moment to pay that much attention, but also their working memory is limited.
Yeah.
And so really they can follow simple one-step directions, but this higher level of, let me explain to you as to why this is happening and reiterate, and are you looking at me and are you listening to me? No, it's just, their brain is working so quickly and so fast, and that working memory isn't there yet. And so you may often have to repeat yourself, and that's okay. So just because you said it yesterday doesn't mean that you're not going to say it today. And that is that repetition that does help within their brain and those neural networks to kind of make it more stable. But it takes a lot of repetition.
Yeah.
Simple directives. They can really only pay attention for about 5 to 10 minutes. And those are on preferred tasks. So if you ask them to do things that they don't want to do, that's going to be harder. So thinking about in school, I think there are a lot of worksheets given in kindergarten. There are a lot of manipulatives as well, but that sitting in the carpet for 30 minutes is going to be really hard. And processing, I have to wait my turn until the people go before me, and you're supposed to listen to the people who go before you, but there's a butterfly outside and that's more interesting. It's just going to be really hard for kids.
And I have to hold on to my thought and what I want to share, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, that's the other thing. You're asking them to really be able to manipulate and flex like muscles that are growing at that time, which I think is a challenging component.
Absolutely. They also have a hard time with delayed gratification. I don't know if you saw all of those Instagram or TikTok or whatever it was, where they would put the donut in front of the child and say, if you choose not to eat this now, you choose to eat 10 donuts later. Like, that's
Forget it.
hard. I don't think I could do it. I wouldn't want 10 donuts.
I'd rather just have this now. It's also what is the goal? Do I even like donuts enough to want 10? But I think for me, what this really speaks to sometimes for these young children is how much we postpone in the day, right? We do this, then this afternoon you can do this. It may be too far of a time frame for them to be able to shift focus and stay regulated. I remember in Landra's Cookies, Choices, and Kids video, he talks about how when you're setting limits as consequences, right, it needs to match the developmental level of the child. So if you say you can't watch TV tonight, that may have no influence on a child than if they can't watch their favorite show this morning, right? Especially for children. And so even just thinking about that in playroom time, classroom time, home life, right? How are we limit setting? And then it may explain why we're having explosions when the time for the consequences to come up,
Yeah.
that delayed kind of gratification or being able to hold on to what that really means in the moment may not have any true consequence or a true reward for a kid.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, go ahead.
For this age group, they really base a lot of their emotional regulation off the adults in their life.
Yes.
So it's not just that they're doing it independently. There's a lot of co-regulation that's happening, and their ability to attune and assess what's happening in the environment is going to be a big part of executive functioning at these young ages.
And I had something I was going to say and I just forgot it.
No, that's okay.
But predictability is really important at this stage, and really having predictable routines, clear boundaries, and especially with transitions, those are going to be really hard for kids. And there's a lot of transitions that happen at school, at home. You have to get up in the morning and brush your teeth and do this. And so the more routines you can get and have it kind of, this is the way our family does it, this is the way that we do this at school, they're going to need time warnings. I think that's really helpful so that they can know what's coming next. And that helps with that predictability. And that's why we talk about in the playroom giving a 5-minute warning. You may need to give a 1-minute warning. And having those same things in the classroom can be really helpful. I've seen where they have, pictures of what the day is every day. And that just kind of helps kids know and develop that predictable nature. And then recognizing that it's going to be hard then when you go into summer. And then you have to start a new class with a new routine with a new person. And so all of these shifts, they may not seem like a big deal to the adults in the spaces, but they are very difficult for kids. And that's going to impact their executive functioning at this stage.
Yeah. And I think for maybe parents who are listening, even that idea of helping kids transition from an event home or leaving a party or the playground, all of those components. It's funny because I think as adults, we naturally do this. We look at the clock and we're like, oh, we got to leave in 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Forget to tell kids that they also need to start wrapping things up and get things done. It's just let's go. It's
Yeah.
time to leave without giving them the warning. So one way you can help maybe lessen emotional dysregulation at the end of something is giving them that 5, 10, 15-minute warning. I wouldn't go over that time frame. It's too much time and it feels like an exorbitant amount of time, but it allows them to wrap up or do one more thing that they really want to do before they leave, which will sometimes make leaving in transition. Now, in saying that, we have to be consistent and predictable. It means we can't go 45 minutes and continue a conversation, right? If we say 15 minutes, we need to mean 15 minutes.
Yeah. Because if
And
they're not predictable in that way and they experience it's not being unpredictable that way, then the next time they're also going to think that it's not,
yeah,
that it doesn't. And so it really is on us also. Thinking about middle childhood, so 6 to 11, this is a huge age range. And there's so much that's happening developmentally within these spaces. And there's a huge difference between a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old.
the age group that is they've started school, so there's higher executive demand on them too. And I think that's why we see such big growth in executive functioning because
Mhm.
we're asking them to do more things independently.
Yeah. This is usually around 4th grade. They're going to start implementing homework, or 5th grade. Sometimes they implement it earlier.
I have kindergartners that have homework.
Um, ugh,
Just so everyone knows, the American Academy of Pediatrics, AAP, suggests, I think it's 10 minutes per grade level, and kindergarten is not a grade level. So
right.
first grade would be 10 minutes. That's all the homework they should have. Second grade should be a max of 20 minutes. That includes everything. That includes reading, that includes a worksheet, right? But I think we often are rushing that for kids, and in particular for kids who have trouble in a classroom, because I think more gets sent home for them to complete from the day's task. And you'll see a lot of behavioral, I think, dysregulation out of so much demand being placed at home time. And it also, there's no downtime for them to process the day. So free play is a really important component of childhood. It helps them be able to organize and make sense of the experiences they had in the day if we just eliminate free time. So we have them in all these extracurricular activities, but they're all directed. They have to follow certain rules, right? That's not really free play,
Right.
or have to do homework before they can
Right.
do free play. And then, they protest so much they don't get any free play. I've had several kids that will present in their classroom they have ADHD because they're not getting enough free play time outside of the classroom. And when we start limiting how much time they have outside of school-based work, I've had several teachers comment, wow, did you put them on medication? And it's like, nope, we just gave them free play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So free play has a really important developmental need for many children, and our need for our kids to get ahead, to be smarter, brighter, more accomplished earlier and earlier actually may inhibit their ability in
Mhm.
the classroom or at sporting, their sports events or their band or art classes or other places because they do need
That opportunity to unwind, to process, to
it.
accept.
time to just the freedom.
Yeah, 1,000%. So when we think about it, they are having increased cognitive flexibility. So they're able to kind of think differently. They're able to follow directions differently. They're able to engage in goal directed work and like keep working on things. Now, not everybody is able to do those things. And sometimes it's, if it's not the, if the goal is to finish a worksheet, but they don't care about that goal, that's going to be hard, and that's okay. And so just recognizing that their goals may be different than the goals from the adults around them. And so kind of how can you balance those things? But they do have an increased opportunity for persistence, that they're going to keep trying and working. They start getting that inner speech. So they start thinking about problem solving, and they can kind of talk themselves through those things and help bring themselves under control through those mechanisms.
And this is something we want to be really mindful of, I think, within the play therapy world. So, really using those encouraging and trying to limit praise language, because that could actually have a negative impact on that inner speech. Only good if I succeed immediately. Or if, do you know what I mean? There's a whole bunch of language, and we really want them to grow kind of grit and tenacity, like we talked about in some of the skills recently, right? So, returning responsibility, limit setting, encouragement, esteem builders, those types of things, because we want them to have an inner speech that lets them know that they can work through, handle, overcome challenges.
They're also getting better at working memory. So multiple steps. I see this really in math, I guess, in particular with kids, is that they're able to kind of do multiple steps to kind of get there. This is where around third and fourth grade, they're starting to get more word problems for math, trying to elicit some of the meaning from writing passages. So they're able to start kind of doing these multi-steps because their memory is growing in that capacity. So they're really able, you just see a big shift, I think, from 6 to 11 and their ability to kind of have these more higher order complex memory tasks. And they're starting to be able to regulate internally, but they're still going to have emotional outbursts. So there's still going to be meltdowns. We had one yesterday. And just kind of remaining calm and reflecting those feelings, because there's a lot happening in those times. And also, depending on what that self-speech is, if it's like, if I don't do this right, then I am not good enough, or I'm not acceptable. So then that's going to then create some emotional dysregulation in those moments, if they feel as if they're not upholding this self-ideal that they've developed. And yeah, so please don't think that this means that there's not going to be outbursts. There's still going to be emotional outbursts.
Well, and right, it's that ideal that not everything goes our way sometimes, and that can be real challenging, right? And I'm gonna have to learn how to manage disappointment. I'm gonna have to learn to manage prolonging a need for myself or a want.
Yeah.
Part of that emotional surges that come with this age group, that they still exist.
Yeah. And it's hard. And I think they have more opportunities for disappointment too in this age, or they're different, right? So in sports in our family right now, they enact a draft to make teams similar. So my son got separated from all of his friends that he was on a team with for 5 years. And there is a lot of disappointment. And then it's also neat to be able to see them work through that and be able to recognize and we've been doing this in second grade. So it's, oh man, it is disappointing when you don't get on the team with your friends. And this is really hard. And think about all the people that we've gotten to meet who we wouldn't have met if that didn't happen. And so just kind of talking them through that and letting them have that space to be disappointed and frustrated and remaining calm, and what great developmental life lessons that come with those.
And in my head, I'm thinking, gosh, we're trying to bring adult-based ideas into childhood. Why does it matter if they have the same team that they've had their whole childhood? And I understand it. And then on the other hand, my brain is, this seems like an adult-driven decision more than anything else. Really tell me how and how they thought through this was going to be supportive of the kids already in the league. This sounds like this was supporting areas that are struggling
Yes.
to equalize because we have this need in our society for everyone to get a trophy at the end of the day. And so all
I think
sports,
it was frustrating because some teams were getting more trophies.
yeah, or that.
But we're not stacking
So
the
for
team.
me,
We just
then
all go to school together.
yeah. Or let's alternate the coaches. If we really think it's getting stacked for certain reasons, rotate coaches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Break the kids up. Sorry. That's a
We're on another. Yes.
yeah.
But yeah, so I think that thinking about what we can expect as caregivers, as play therapists, as teachers, they can anticipate consequences and they can plan in the short term, short term.
Same day.
Yeah. And they're still hiding things.
Yeah.
They're
I,
still sneaky.
they also don't want to get in trouble. That's a
Right.
really normal developmental milestone for the 6 to 11 age range.
They're
So
really
they're
figuring out.
going to do things right, so they can understand there's going to be a consequence. But let's make our consequences realistic, right? For the day. In my mind, we want to give them as many opportunities to practice these executive functioning skills. So when you take something away for a week, A, the kid stops caring about it, but B, there's no practice that they get to do around the skill set.
Yeah. Yeah. And so really just trying to be aware and cognizant of this is a short, we're going to have to make short, time limited, that they are better at anticipating it. They're still going to be sneaky and try and get what they want. I found so many candy wrappers hidden everywhere. I'm like, okay, all right.
And yes. And in my head, I'm like, is it sneaky?
No, you're right. That's not.
I, I just want to be careful of the language we choose
Yes.
to use because I think kids often get blamed for words manipulative,
Right.
and that's probably the one I hear the most.
Yeah.
Or
And that's harm
deceptive, and it's
reduction.
like
No,
they
they're just trying to
without
get what
kind
they want without getting in trouble. We all try to do that.
oh, yeah, even as adults.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And then there's also, they really need scaffolding. And so kind of building tasks on tasks so that, small little tasks as opposed to one big chunk. I think that's really important and can be helpful and avoids overwhelming them to the point where maybe they want to give up or they're like, well, I can't do this. And so meeting them where they are and then helping them get to the final step through small intervals.
This is all.
Yeah, I think when you are working with this age group, you can start to see how they're able to kind of work through different steps and tasks. And so even last night, I was working with Molly on some of her homework, and she struggles a little bit with executive functioning and was very much, oh, if I don't know the answer right away. And so we kind of went through and it's like, okay, well, let's look at the question and what does the question say? And what do we know over here? So she's starting to be able to get those multi things. And so you can see how it goes from kindergarten and first grade, where they're looking at letters and spelling, to then third grade, where it's like, okay, what in chapter or in paragraph 4, how does this talk about this? And then Rhodes, who's in fourth grade, is math word problems. And so what that is their ability, their executive functioning, being able to kind of go through multi-step processes as how they're going to do that. And then even going into sixth grade, kind of the top end of that, how do you remember? I get really excited when I get to do this kind of math, where it's you have the parentheses first. And so you do what's in the parentheses and then you do what's after the parentheses. It became a big deal when I was working on my spreadsheets, and I was so proud of myself for remembering them. And that's that multi-step process that they're beginning to kind of master towards that 11, 12. And then the working memory. So Chrissy, even as you were talking about your assignments and how it's all at the end, it's cumulative, right? And so they're able to build upon the learning that they've received. And so it's all kind of scaffolded in that way. And that's really important for kids to scaffold it. And I think also for our teachers out there, I think they're probably very aware of this, but making, the word problems relevant to what they're experiencing. So if you have a question about you're flying to Istanbul, that's not going to work for kids who've never been able to be on a plane
Yeah.
So that doesn't, so it's how can you make these things relevant to their life so that it makes sense in their mind as you're scaffolding it in that way. I guess that's a
Yeah.
tangent on development, but
No, but I think it's an important component of executive functioning is that idea that as their cognitive ability grows, right, that they can then handle these multi-step tasks and really making sure we're not outpacing them. So
right.
that like that idea of scaffolding, being supportive in that is really important.
Yeah.
I also think part of executive functioning is kind of their internal dialogue and how they are talking to themselves. So it feels a little bit self esteem is built into this idea of executive functioning. For me, is that at the school age, they start to create internal messages that they're aware of, right? And have much more ability to kind of recall in those moments. But that inner speech that they have, right, that internal dialogue is really helping them know if they can or cannot solve these problems. So this also links to emotional regulation a little bit, right? If they feel better about themselves, more capable, then they're going to have more ability to have grit and tenacity in these moments to overcome challenging problem solving events compared to if they have maybe a lower self efficacy, lower self esteem, where then they're going to maybe give up a little bit quicker. I think some of this pulls on Dweck's work and her work around growth mindset and how do we help cultivate and for executive functioning purposes the ability to lean into that internal speech or that internal dialogue that kids have with themselves. And I think that also talks about how much this age group is internalizing their experiences and how executive functioning does link into that internalization
Yeah.
and how they're managing not only emotional response but also views of esteem, worth, ability at that time as well.
And it's my personal life is so aligning with this right now because going over the homework with Molly and she's like, I don't need it's a retake test. I'm like, yes, it's a retake test, but you got some wrong. And so let's do it again. And immediately giving up and not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to respond, which I'm sure I did, and I really tried to regulate, if frustrated or with impatience, I really had to remain calm and regulated so that she could remain calm and regulated. And then it was really neat, Christy, after we finished doing all of it, I went up to her room and I was like, did you notice how at first you didn't think you had the answers, but then when you thought about it and took a breath, you did know the answers? And she was like, I did. And I was like, you're really proud of yourself and you can do hard things. And she started smiling. I was like, you know this. You're really smart and you can remember them. And you figured all of this out and trying very hard to put it on her as opposed to me. I'm proud of you versus you're proud of yourself. And just watching the light come in, I think that talking about that internal dialogue, she's like, if I don't get it right away, that means that I'm not good or I'm not.
Smart.
And I was like, but you are smart. You knew those answers. You figured that out. And
Yeah.
seeing that excitement that, and part of it is having to grow that grit and tenacity. And so for our teachers and parents and our play therapists, when talking to parents, really helping them respond in those ways, which can be difficult when you're okay, you're having a meltdown because I asked you the question and you just guessed an answer. I know you
Yeah.
know this.
Well, I think that goes really to that reflective responding, right? In conversations with your kids, and in particular about leaning into feeling, leaning into how they're making decisions and choices that they're making. And for me, it also has a lot of connection to encouragement over the praise component. So taking yourself out of it and really helping them see their own capacity, like you did with Molly.
Yeah. So I think that's really important. I think it's also, they're still having meltdowns, but the meltdowns are a little different, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that they really still need that structure and consistency and having reflective conversations about
Yeah.
their feelings and about the choices they're making, still using, going back to our skills, the choice giving. When you choose to do this, you choose to do that. And the choices and the natural consequences get bigger. And as the older they get, But having those conversations with them in that transparent way is really important too.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I was also thinking really being thoughtful about the emotional regulation component of it. When they're really melted down, it's not the time to go into choice giving and other stuff, right? Although they have better cognitive flexibility and this age group does tend to be goal directed, they can also developmentally just want to complete tasks. And so being mindful of short-term planning with, but also if they're in meltdown stage, this is not the time to challenge their ability to, oh my gosh, I just lost my, not to challenge their executive functioning, right? Like that's a time to connect and be with the child until they get into a state of more regulation or more regulation. Allow yourself to be the thermostat in the relationship of really helping them get settled back in. And then as they're back more fully online, they're able to have conversations about it. That's when we can push into that cognitive flexibility moments. Because otherwise, all you're going to do is keep the tantrum going or cause the meltdown to be prolonged or intensify, which I know most parents, therapists, teachers, that's not what they're looking to do. But oftentimes we continue to trigger that for kids. And as hopefully the more regulated person in the relationship, as we stay regulated, as we stay with them, that we're able to then help, right? And I think as we get into the next component of talking about how is CCPT connected, I think that's one of the places it is really connected with executive functioning is how can we help to slowly grow and increase that flexibility and increase the persistence related to planning, persistence, goal setting, those types of components of executive functioning.
So yeah, I hope that's helpful.
I think you guys let us know. Was that
Yeah.
helpful?
Was it
And
helpful?
I want to put a big shout out to Dr. Mary Morrison Bennett because I think she's the one who really got us thinking about this. I know she has plans to write on this and do more about CCPT and executive functioning. And so our goal was not to like steal her thunder in any way. It was just I think we got really excited and wanted to. We've been thinking about it a lot since our conversation with her, which brought us to today.
Yeah, because I think I struggled with how to relate these two things. And so it
Mm-hmm.
was beneficial for me to be able to start doing this research and delving into it and talking about it because as an auditory processor, it's really helpful for me to talk to you about it.
Yes.
So hopefully if you're listening, then that's helpful too. And we've had a couple people reach out about consultation groups. If this is something that you're interested in, I might have some time in the next semester. And so reach out to us either through info@playtherapyspace.com or Maggie@playtherapyspace.com or Christy@playtherapyspace.com and let us know. You can email us. You can sign up for the newsletter that we will get out, or you can direct message us in our Instagram or Facebook. And we're on Pinterest and YouTube and, all of the things that
It's a lot of executive functioning for us.
I don't have a list. And that I think that's what our goal for when we're hopefully together over the winter holiday. Hopefully we'll be able to do an episode or two again together and we can maybe even
But
make
we
some.
also do a lot of planning for the new year when we have these times together. And so be on the lookout. Starting in the new year, we do have a new chapter coming out. We are going to be pulling from research from that. So we'll be able to share with you guys who are the key people who have really leaned in and studied in these parts in case you're looking for further resources. And please remember that through the Center for Play Therapy, they do have their evidence-based website where you can kind of get a summary of specific studies that are out there in play therapy and you can look. We'll make sure that that's included in our new chapter coming out since we finished our chapter on skills. This is kind of one of the next steps that we wanted to take. If there are areas that you guys are curious about that we haven't talked about, please let us know. We want this to be helpful for you. And then last and finally, don't forget to like and subscribe to our page. It helps us know who's listening, where you guys are tuning in from. And we just really appreciate y'all
So much. Well, thank you, Christy.
so much. Thanks. Have a great week, everyone. And we will see you next week.
Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
Chris.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.